I'm going to show you guys how I spend like 55 div on average to craft gloves that can easily sell for 85 div and can even go as high as 120. The first thing we want to do for these gloves is we want to get the base with the temple mod craft here, and we want to isolate the suffix. So we're splitting here and hoping that we just get one suffix. If we don't, we're gonna have to annul, but rage. Nice, we did not do it, but that's fine. Split one more. We bought these for like 50C to 70C each, so quite cheap. Even if we miss, they are very inexpensive. Anyway, so this one, for example, we just need to annul. We need it to be isolated. It has to be just one suffix, and we won the 50-50. Very, very nice. So I like to get over 20% quality bases just because it feels kind of like if we're spending so much money on these gloves, what is an extra like 2 div for the base, considering that the end result will be worth like 100 plus div, and the cost of the bases will probably be offset by the increased amount of revenue we're going to make on the end product. 5 total mods, and then we just add any random mod in here. It allows us to split it 3 ways with the Black Morgan, which are only a div. So very, very nice. Cool. So we split the gloves. We have 3 of these glove bases now. These cost around like 1 div each, probably a little bit less, honestly. But the most important thing now is we need to use Screaming Essence of Rage to get strength onto these gloves. These are NNN mods on the glove. NNN just means non-native naturally. So these strength mods cannot drop on the gloves. They can't normally be on the gloves for any reason except for the essence. It doesn't have the essence tag. It has the strength tag. That is very important to do, and I'll show you why in a second. But we just need to pretty much get it back down to 1 strength. Cool. So we have 2 strength. Let's get 1 more. All right, so that's 3 strength gloves that we have on here. Yeah, so if we look at the modifiers we actually want on gloves, we need eye level 84 to hit tier 1 ES. That's the only thing we really care about. Essentially what we're going to do now is we are going to try and move this cold damage mod onto these gloves. So if you're wondering what is the reason why we have a strength mod here, the temple mod here, is because the only part that really matters to understand is that if you recombine strength on specifically not strength base gloves like armor gloves, and recombine with another item without an armor base as well, this mod will never ever survive. It'll never make it onto the recombination because it's NNN. It can't normally spawn on these gloves. However, this one can. This one can move because it's not an NNN mod. It's an exclusive mod. But what ends up happening is we're recombining 2 prefixes. So we have a guaranteed chance to save at least 1 mod. And because this mod can't be saved and this mod can be saved, we have a 100% chance for this mod to be the survivor. Which is to say that no matter how many times we recombine these items, this mod will always survive. Now what we just need to do is win the 50-50 to have the mod move over onto this base, because the way it works is the recombinator determines which base survives and then it'll add the mods on. So 50-50, if it's on this base, it'll add the mod on. If it's on this base, it'll add this mod on. So let's see. Cool, so it survived, didn't add the mod on. We lost one of our glove bases. That's okay though. We have a few of them. They only cost like 1 div each. Who really cares? So strength, suffix, 1 to 1. You just have to make sure there's only 1 suffix on each. And we go again. And we lost again. Never lucky. Yep, 25 quality gloves, eye level 84, strength, temple. And we lost again. This game fucking sucks. But that's okay. We can just buy more gloves. Now we just need to win a 50-50. It can't be that hard, surely. Okay, we won 1. Let's go. We have 3 bases. I already prepped 2 earlier. But essentially now we have these quality bases, right? 25% quality bases with the temple mod on them. The next thing we're going to want to do here is just fracture to hit the temple mod. I'm just going to fracture. Ideally, you want to have 1 other tier 1 on the prefix. But here we fracture and we hit. One thing I forgot to mention is that you actually want to re-roll the harvest on these. That's actually a kind of a big deal that I forgot to mention. I was a little tilted by how many fucking chaos orbs we missed, but you can re-roll this harvest here. So like 42% is too low. Like you can argue 40 to 8% is okay. I like to go for like 49, 50, but you can reforge this cold into lightning right here. Cold res to lightning. Then you go lightning to cold. and then you just do this until you hit an acceptable number. For example, this one is 50. That is perfect roll. There's two ways you can craft this. You can either do essences, which is like the midway. It's also like the dumb way. I wouldn't do that. There really isn't two ways to craft it. But that is one option. But at the current prices, that option is bad. The way that I would recommend you do it is by doing dense fossil spamming. So the way dense fossils work, I'm sure you guys all know, but if you don't, is that they essentially make it so that you have a higher likelihood to hit certain modifiers, in this case, defense modifiers, an impossible likelihood to hit life modifiers. So more defense, less life. More just means that the weighting is increased by 10x. And because we have the suffix fractured, the likelihood that we actually hit increases pretty significantly, because now we have a higher likelihood of rolling 3 prefixes on every Dorito. But we just go roll, roll. Pretty much all defensive mods on the prefixes. Okay, so we have tier 1, tier 2. I would say though that like the most important stat to get actually is flat tier 1. Okay, we hit mana. We can just annul this. We can just use a regular annul here because these are a lot less expensive. And we just keep going here like this. This will take a while. I think on average it's going to take you around 200 Doritos in order to hit something very good. Probably a significant amount to hit something that is acceptable. So we hit the Dorito here. We missed. Okay, so like this, for example, tier 1, tier 2, that is very good. If we can hit hybrid tier 3 even, I think it's acceptable for the sake of this craft. And we hit hybrid tier 6. That is unfortunate. We got it on the annul. And then we literally annulled back on the same fucking thing. All right, whatever, that happens. See, we can go for one more. Yeah, it survived. That is just how it goes sometimes. Tier 1. Okay, so this one, tier 1, tier 2, tier 2. These gloves are 350. Yes, good enough, I would say. This is probably like the lowest roll that you can probably hit for it to be acceptable. In my opinion, I just think the flat ES roll is actually so big. The difference between tier 1 and tier 2 is legitimately 10 ES, which is like a 25% increase. For the purpose of this craft today, just to showcase what we need to do, this is perfectly fine. Okay, so this, as you can see, costs us, like, well, it costs you on average probably like 30 div in just fracturing orbs, and then another like 5 div in bases that you need to kind of transfer over, like quality bases that you transfer over. And then we spent probably like 20 Doritos. So that's what, 10 Doritos, that's like a div. We spent a div in Doritos, but let's just be turbo conservative and just say we need to spend 5 div in Doritos to hit. So that means that, you know, we spent like 35 div to craft these gloves. And that's kind of what our expected cost to craft these gloves are going to be, like 35 div, just to get them to this stage. And that's a pretty reasonable price, I would say. We do prefix can't be changed. And then all we do now is we veiled chaos orb. Prefix can't be changed, veiled chaos orb. So we come to crafting bench here, and we block minion recover 100% of their life when focused, and then we unveil. And we want to hit number 1. The first thing we want to hit here, brand attachment range. Okay, I mean that's the only thing we want to hit here. Because we have the fracture, we can just do this pretty much for free. It only costs 2 div per roll. I think there's like a 20% chance to get it on the unveil. So we do it 5 times, 10 div to hit, whatever. Oh, we got it on the first try, but let's just assume it costs 10 div to hit. We have brand attachment range, and then what we want to craft on is attack speed while focused. So that is kind of it. Shield damage, brand attachment range, 25. 75 div for shitter ones. Like these ones were better than, we have 30 more ES, we have 20 more ES here. Yeah, we could probably sell these for 80 div. Like if you get better rolls on them, I've sold them for like 120 div. That is not outside of the realm of imagination, but this is a giga easy profit craft. Like you just saw, 35 div to get the prefixes, and with the fracture, it'll cost you 10 div on average to hit the brand attachment range, and then you sell it. So we spent what, 45 div on average? Let's just call it 50 on average, and they sell for like easily 90. I wouldn't say easily 90. They'll sell for at a minimum 75. So if this market gets incredibly saturated, which I imagine it might, 75 div, you're still making like 30 div average. Like that took me like 10 minutes to do. So one other thing you can do to increase the value of the gloves is you can get the implicits correctly. What you want is 35% fizz converted to lightning, and then 25% enerviate. No, you do grand for this one. Wait, how much are grands right now? Oh, they're really cheap. Yeah, you can do grands. You can just set up a regex. Cool. Convert lightning, blah, blah, blah. So we roll them with the grands, the one that we want to elevate, which in this case is the I-core. We get the one that we want. Then we apply an exceptional to it of the other end. Then we hit the Orb of Conflict on it. It'll essentially choose between the top and the bottom of the implicit, so the 20% Viz converted or the cold damage to attacks. It'll lower the tier of one and then increase the tier of the other. The lower tier one has the highest tier of upgrading. So that's why we use the exceptional for the red, because this is one lower. So it is higher likely now to hit the one that we want. Boom. So we have that now. We just win 2 in a row here. 30. Okay. Just like that. Yeah, we're back. We hit this. Now we just need to bring the other one to, what do we want? Unnerve? Oh, there you go. And that is the whole glove done. Yeah, that part is kind of tedious. I don't really like it. I feel like once you finish this part of the craft, you should be done. Doing this part, I don't know why, mentally for me, there's a mental block here where I just feel like everything that I do here is worthless. And it just shouldn't need to be done. Call me old-fashioned. That is not that hard to do. That took me like 15 minutes to craft this. If it sells for 90 div, I mean, the profit is like 35 div. A customer. And that is step-by-step how you do it from the beginning to the end. This one was a little bit more complicated than the last few that I've shown you guys. So if you have questions or whatever, feel free to write them in the comments. I'll try and respond about any questions. Thank you guys so much for watching. If this was helpful, please like and subscribe. I'll see you guys soon.